So before you can begin developing Android apps, we have to set up your development environment. Now in this video series we're going to look at setting up for a Windows environment. If you're using a Mac, look for the separate video section on setting up your Mac. So there are several things that you have to have in place in order to develop for Android, and they include the Android development tools, the ADT. And if you don't have Java installed on your computer, you'll need to get the Java Development Kit. We'll also be using Eclipse, so we can download and install the Eclipse IDE. And we also have the SDK, the Android SDK, as well as Android packages. Android packages will be the different versions of the mobile operating system of Android, and you can include several different ones in your work environment so that you can target and develop for different versions. Our first stop in setting up our development environment is going to be going to developer.android.com/SDK. And we'll start here for downloading the Android SDK, which is the Software Development Kit. You scroll down in here and you can see when we get here, this is a listing of the SDK packages that you can download. And we're going to download the installer for Windows, which is going to take care of a lot of other things in the background for us. So this is what we want to download. So you're going to click that and it's going to download, and I'm going to save file, and then I'm going to switch into my downloads folder once this is finished and open this up and run that. Okay, so here's the downloaded file in my downloads folder, and I'm going to double click on it to begin the installation. And yes, it is a trusted source. So I'm going to follow the wizard, the setup wizard. Now you can see from this that I do not have Java installed. It is a requirement. We're going to be using Java to create our Android apps, so we have to have the Java Development Kit installed. So if you already have it installed on your computer, you won't be getting this message. But from here, I'm going to visit java.oracle.com in order to find the Java Development Kit and install that. So what we want is the Java Development Kit. So I'm going to scroll down here, and here we are. We want the JDK, so I'm going to download this. And I have to go in and accept the license agreement. And then we have to pick the particular download for your operating system. So I'm going to choose Windows x86. That's for 32-bit Windows. And it's going to download that Java Development Kit. I'll save file, and it will go into my downloads folder. It's 84 megs, so it might take a few minutes. Okay, so the Java Development Kit has downloaded, and I'm going to go to my downloads folder and double click on the exe file to begin the installation. And I want to say yes, it is recognized. Okay, so we have the setup wizard here. I'm just going to go through, install, and keep all the defaults. You don't need to make any changes. So after a few minutes of installation, it's finished, and I can click continue. And now I'm going to go back on my taskbar at the bottom. This wizard is still in place for installing our tools. So I'm going to hit back, and then we'll continue going through this wizard. So this is going back into the Android SDK installation. Now that we have Java installed, we can continue through, and now this time it does recognize that Java has been found. So I'm going to click Next. And this is the location of where the tools will be stored. So program files is an appropriate place to keep them. So you can keep that default. And the name of the files, so we can just click Install. And it'll go through, take a minute. Okay, so installation complete. Successfully set up. We can click Next. And it says, do you want to start the SDK manager? And so we'll leave that checked and click Finish. Alright, I'm going to close my Downloads folder. And on mine, the browser does pop up and ask me to register the Java Development Kit. So I'll leave that up to you whether you decide to follow up with that part. Now, in the meantime, it did start the Android SDK manager. It was sort of running behind my browser window. And this is what it looks like. Yours might look slightly different, but this is where we can download tools and also different versions of the Android operating system. Remember, Android is the mobile operating system. And the nice feature about this SDK manager is that we can have different versions of the operating system within our framework to work. Because you might want to develop an application for an earlier operating system to make sure that it operates on a wider range of devices. Or you might be targeting something for the newest operating system that has more features. So you're able to go in here and download them. Now I have some that have already been downloaded, and I can expand this and you can see it shows what's installed and what's not installed. So what you can do from here is choose some of the different ones and install them. They do take some time to install. So I do have the most recent version right now installed, but then if I wanted 4.0, then I could go in here and either check off everything for this version or certain pieces. You know, samples are good to have. There's some working examples, and they're always helpful to look at as a reference and a resource. So when it does take time to download these. So, you know, if I wanted to do the 4.0, I would choose that. Some of the examples we're going to do in Hello World are using the Android 2.3.3. So you might want to choose that one so that if you follow along with the video, you'll be able to use the same version of the operating system. But when you go through, you can check these off and then choose to install the packages. And then we have to, it shows what's going to be installed, and you can do them individually to accept the packages, or you can do accept all and then click install. And then depending on what you're installing, it'll take a few minutes to several minutes. So I'm going to let this finish out installing Android 4.0, and then that way I'll have several different versions of the Android operating system in my framework in order to work with. Next, we're going to download the developer tools. And to do that, we're going to download Eclipse, which is a development tool that the Google tools for Android actually run inside of. So we're starting at eclipse.org, and we're going to just find the little button over here that says Get Started Now to download Eclipse. And once you get here, you'll find a lot of different options. There are a number of different flavors of Eclipse, if you will. And what we're going to do is we're just going to choose, where is it? Eclipse Classic. Eclipse Classic, about 174 megabytes. So it's going to be a little timely download, especially if you don't have a fast internet connection. And then you're going to choose whether you have a 32-bit or 64-bit machine. I have a 32-bit. So I'm going to click on this and download it into my downloads folder. Actually, now I have to choose the mirror. So I'm going to choose this mirror and make the connection to begin the download. So this will download into my downloads folder. Once it's finished, we're going to open that up and run, and we'll unzip this and get ready to install the Eclipse framework. So Eclipse has finished downloading, and in my downloads folder I have a zip file. So I'm going to double click to open it up. Okay, now once I open it, it's not unzipped or extracted yet. You can see it's still in the zip folder, but now I'm inside this zip folder. And I want to be able to extract these files. So I'm going to choose Extract All Files. And now it's asking me for a destination, so where these files should go. Now by default, it's going to try to put it in my Downloads folder. But I want to put this into my program files. When this is unzipped, it doesn't create an installation application icon like you normally do with a lot of other programs. So we're going to manually direct this to go into your programs folder, and then we'll put an icon on the desktop so that you can find it quickly. So I'm going to browse to my programs folder. So the programs folder would be on my hard drive and program files. So I'm going to choose the program files folder and click OK, and then click extract. And it's going to copy and unzip those in. And I'm going to do continue. So it is copying about 1,300 files, 190 megabytes. So this will take a minute or two. So I'm just going to pause it, and we'll pick up from after it's finished unzipping. Okay, so it has finished unzipping the Eclipse files into my program files folder. And as I said, this does not install, so it won't be off of the Windows menu. So I'm going to open up the Eclipse folder. And it had a folder inside a folder here. And have eclipse.exe. Now I want to be able to use this throughout my development, so I'm going to right click on it and put a shortcut on the desktop. Send to desktop, create shortcut. And then I can close this window. Okay, we're going to open up the Eclipse program, and we have the security warning since it was downloaded from the internet. And if you don't want to see this message each time, you can uncheck Always Ask This before opening this file. And then we'll click Run. And Indigo right now is the most recent release of Eclipse, but it does have different names and different releases, so in the future you may have some other names coming up. Now, the first time you run this, it's going to ask you for your workspace. In other words, where do you want it default to save your project files to? So I'm happy with this. If you want to store them someplace else, you can browse and set that up. I'm also going to check this to use it as the default, so it doesn't ask me this same thing every time I start Eclipse. And then I'll click OK, and it will finish loading. And once it's finished loading, we have the Eclipse window. And we'll be working in here pretty much for the most part to develop our Android applications. And finally, before we can begin developing our Android apps, we have to go out and get the Android development tools. So from within, if you're working in Windows or the Mac, this will work the same way. So in your Eclipse program, you're going to go to Help and Install New Software. And work with, we're going to put in a very specific link here, https://dl-ssl.google.com/android/eclipse. And then we're going to click Add. And the name, we're going to call this Android, so that our tools will know, we'll be able to easily identify them. And we'll click OK. It's going to go through, find the software. And then we have developer tools. Now you can expand this disclosure triangle to see what's going to be installed. But we can just click this check mark to do all of them, or do select all. And Windows a little bit out of frame. We'll click Next. And we have the install details. In other words, just double check before we go to continue. We have to accept the terms of the licensing agreements and then click Finish. And it's going to take a few minutes to install. And if you want to work on other things, you can always hit run in the background and then come back to this later. So if this security warning pops up, we can just click OK. We know it's a trusted source. Okay, when it's finished, it says you can either take your chances and apply the changes, but they recommend restarting. So if you don't restart, then some things may not work right. So we want to make sure that everything works okay. Now this is just going to restart Eclipse. It's not going to restart the entire computer system. Okay, now it comes up with configuring the SDK. We want to choose the latest version of Android APIs. And I'm also going to install the Android 2.1, which is supported by about 97% of the phones and tablets. So we'll go with that. We want to be as widely used as possible. And then I'm going to click Next. And this is up to you whether you want to send your statistics to Google. I'm just going to say no and click Finish. So this is going to install the Android SDK files that we downloaded and unzipped earlier. And then these different packages to install. I'm just going to accept all and install. And I'll pause this while this continues installing. Now that the Android development tools have been installed in Eclipse, you'll be able to see up here we have a couple of quick access buttons on the toolbar. This is going to be for the Android SDK Manager, and this is for Android Virtual Device Manager. Now we'll have a separate video on working just with the Device Manager, but for this is what we looked at a little bit earlier in a different format where we can download other versions of the operating system. So if you ever wanted to come back and add additional ones, that's how you would do it from within Eclipse.